Hey guys, Chris here, and today in this video we're going to be taking a look at 3 new boards from a UK manufacturer called Slick Revolution. Now this is part of a series where we're going to be looking at all 3 boards in different videos, but to start this off we're going to be focusing on one. Now as we break down the different boards that they've released, at the top is going to be their Flex 2.0, which is the most powerful and the quickest board that they've made. Now, second to that is going to be 2 boards that are part of the same range, which is called their Urban range. It features the Urban 80 and also the Urban Kick, which is the one that we're going to be looking at in this video. As a quick side note, all of the boards that we're looking at in this particular series are pre-production models. So if you see anything that doesn't look exactly the same as it does on Slick Revolution's website or anywhere else that you might have seen these 3 boards, it's because that they're pre-production models. So just please bear that in mind. Now, a point that definitely caught me off guard was going to be the general quality of Slick Revolution's boards as a whole, not just with the Urban Kick in this instance. Because of the price point, I wasn't expecting as much attention to detail with the boards. I've seen other boards at a similar price point. When you get them, you're always slightly disappointed with the quality of what you have. That definitely wasn't the case with Slick Revolution's boards. The attention to detail in the general construction of the board, the deck, the grip tape even, the batteries. The batteries were definitely a big bonus. I've seen some boards at a similar price point where the batteries have just been terrible. The way that the motors have been mounted, the general quality of the motors, the wheels, everything about these boards felt premium. It felt a lot better than I was expecting, and that was a pleasant surprise. Now, the way that I describe the Urban Kick is a super maneuverable electric skateboard with an old school kicktail deck. The type of rider that I think would really benefit from having this board is anyone that is based inside a city or a town that has to ride around places that can be a little bit congested, anywhere that you might have to avoid objects or people very suddenly, but more importantly, the type of setting or environment where you have to be able to make turns very, very sharply. So if you're coming up to a road or a turning where your traditional longboard would need to be stopped, picked up, turned, and then set down and off you go. We've all played the game where you try and hit the forward and reverse button and kind of etch yourself around the corner. It's a waste of time, it takes too long, and you know that you're going to eventually just have to pick the board up and rotate it anyway. This is where the Urban Kick really shines. Because of that kicktail, you can just lift up the nose, kick out the back end, spin it round, and keep going without ever having to get off the board, which makes a massive difference if you're in a city or a town. Because of the unique design of that kicktail deck, it makes it super easy to be able to kick out the back end, lift up the nose of the board, point it to wherever you need to, get it down and keep going without ever having to get off. Now, aside from this, having that kicktail, the general design of this deck makes it incredibly easy to do simple things like dropping off of curbs. If you're riding up to any kind of uneven ground and you want to lift up the nose just to make sure that you kind of take a little bit of pressure off of those front wheels so you don't get thrown off of the board, it's super adaptable for things like this. And also when you're getting off the board, being able to kick the tail, grab the top of the board to pick it up just makes life a lot easier than having a traditional longboard. And in addition, because the Urban Kick is a little bit shorter than the traditional longboards that we're used to riding, carrying the board, just generally carrying it through train stations, through crowded places is much easier because it's not as cumbersome. You don't find yourself kind of dragging it on the ground or it tripping you over as you're trying to walk. It's a lot easier and a lot more maneuverable just to move the board around with you. Now for me personally, the first thing that I always want to know when I'm looking at an electric skateboard is going to be the top speed. With Slick Revolution's Urban Kick, it has a suggested top speed of 25 miles an hour. Now, based off of the fact that I'm a 74 kilogram rider and I normally have a bag that's between 5 and 6 kilograms, sometimes it can be a little bit more, I would average at sort of between 20 to 22 miles an hour, top end, kind of like going on a flat surface as fast as I can possibly go. So it's not far off of that. If I was a lot lighter in terms of if I didn't have a big bag on my back, and normally, especially this time of year, we tend to be riding against the wind, the 25 mile an hour speed is definitely achievable. This is with one of the 2 wheel options that Slick Revolution offers. This is the 110mm wheel, which is referred to as their rough stuff wheel. As the name suggests, it's for rough terrain. I wouldn't say this is an off-road wheel. You can definitely try that if you want to, but in my personal opinion, I think this wheel is just for the type of roads that you encounter, especially if you live in the UK. Rough roads, very, very badly maintained, unfortunately in some cases. This wheel is great at being able to tackle those types of roads. Aside from this, the top speed that you're able to get out of the board will also be based on you personally, your general weight and also your payload, i.e. whatever you're carrying in a bag that you might have with you. Another factor that you need to keep in mind is the terrain that you're going to be riding on. If you're on very, very rough terrain or if you're riding on a slight incline, all of these factors are going to affect the top speed that you're able to get. And also little things like if you're riding against the wind, believe it or not, but that makes a massive difference. The other wheel option that Slick Revolution offer is what they call their slick wheels. Now this is a much smoother wheel that's great for if you have nice smooth roads, if you're predominantly riding in say cycle tracks or anything like that. Now the main difference with the rough stuff wheels and the slick wheels is the slick wheels have a greater point of contact with the road because they're completely flat. So when you're on very smooth streets, it's a lot of fun. Great for cruising. The rough stuff wheels are going to be phenomenal for those rough roads, but what they're really good at is being able to tackle any lips, bumps, or edges, or even rocks, or say sharp pieces of debris that you might go over on the road. Whereas that would be very challenging for the slick wheels. You could find yourself, stopping and almost coming off the board if the wheels come into contact with anything that's very sharp, very big. The rough wheels will be able to chew through that much better, so that's definitely something to mention. So in other words, if you're predominantly riding on smooth roads, the slick wheels will be great because they'll feel fantastic. Now, on the other hand, if you're riding on very rough roads, the slick wheels won't feel as great because they're better designed to be on smooth ground. Now, with the rough stuff wheels, although they have a smaller point of contact with the ground, if you're riding on rough surfaces, they're able to absorb those impacts, those vibrations, those things that you could go over that could result in you coming off of the board. The rough stuff wheels will be able to deal with those much easier. Now, an important point is going to be the range that you're able to get out of these boards, because nobody wants to get out on a board, ride 4 miles and be stranded in the middle of nowhere. With the Urban Kick, my friend Ricky and I, whose channel will be linked down below, who's also making videos of these boards, we were averaging at between 8 and 9 miles. Now, Slick Revolution advertise a range of 15 miles, but of course this is going to be dependent on the size of the rider, the weight, what you're carrying with you, how fast you're going, the terrain that you're riding on. We predominantly ride on pretty flat terrain. There's not too many inclines, although we do have a couple of bridges that we go over that will maybe range in, say, between 10 to 15% incline. And based off of that, and the fact that we also full throttle these boards everywhere on the highest speed setting, we don't ever take it easy on these things. We want to go as flat out and as fast as we possibly can. Averaging between 8 to 9 miles, in my opinion, that's pretty good. If we were going much slower, riding more conservatively, I'm sure we'd be able to hit that 15-mile range. But 15 miles for us is definitely not something that we need to get up to. I think anywhere between sort of 4 and 9 miles is plenty for us to be able to do. From there, that really brings us nicely into charge time. Now, if you completely run the battery dead, which I wouldn't really want to do because then you're going to be kicking manually to be able to find a charge point. I normally run down until I'm pretty much on the last bar of the battery block. I'm looking at normally about 2.5 to 3 hours to be able to charge the board to complete max. Now, of course, if you run the battery down a little more, or if you run it till it's completely flat, you'll probably be looking at about 3 to 4 hours to get a maximum charge. The first time I actually did this, just to see exactly how long it would take to charge the battery, it took somewhere within the region of about 3 hours, 45 minutes-ish to be able to give me a complete full charge when the battery was completely flat. Side note, another reason you don't really want to do this is because the less battery you have, of course this makes sense, the less power you'll have. So you don't want to go all the way down to an empty battery because the board slows down to an almost grind, which isn't fun. Now, looking at the deck of the Urban Kick, compared to some of the other longboards that we've ridden and the other boards that Slick Revolution offers, the first thing you notice about the Urban Kick's deck is that it has a lot more surface area. So when you have your feet on the deck, you feel like you're more stable, more planted, which results in you having a lot more control over the board. Now, when we flip the board over and we look on the underside of the board, you're going to notice cutouts above all of the wheels. Now, what this is for is to allow the board to be able to carve a lot deeper or a lot harder. So when you're turning very tightly, now this is only valid when you have the rough stuff wheels on, which are those 110mm wheels, the larger ones that we covered earlier on in the video. If you have the regular slick wheels on, then you don't have to worry about this issue at all. But it's nice to see the attention to detail. You don't have to worry about getting wheel bite with these boards, so carve away. On the subject of the deck, if we look around the rim, around the nose, and also the heel, or you could say the tail of the board, Slick Revolution have also added a polyurethane rim to these areas. Now, this is going to help us with if you have general bumps where the board comes into contact with the curb, or when you're kicking the board up, standing it up, resting it on the edge of the deck. You don't have to worry about that getting chipped away and worn away very quickly. That polyurethane rim will help to, I guess you could say, increase the durability of those areas of the board that we normally see getting worn down very quickly, very early on in you using your board. So it's great to see with these new ranges from Slick Revolution, we don't have to worry about that. As a quick side note, on the Urban Kick model that we have, you might notice a plastic insert around the kicktail section of the board on the underside. Now, this is something that's either going to be an optional extra, because this is a pre-production board, it came with that, but the actual production run of these boards may not have it, so I just wanted to mention that in case you were wondering what that plastic thing was on the end. For anyone wondering what the battery setup on the Slick Revolution new range of boards is, previously they were using the Samsung 22Rs and they've moved on to the Samsung 30Qs. Essentially, without going into too much detail, this is a more energy dense battery, so it's just going to provide better performance. A quick point, but an important one for some of us, is going to be the noise. Now, the type of motors that these Slick Revolution boards use are belt-driven motors. The other option for your other electric skateboards is your hub motors. The difference between the two, that might be debatable to put in a separate video. If you want to see that, comment down below and let me know. But essentially the main difference is all of the components for the motors, for hub motors, are comprised or built inside the wheels, the rear wheels typically of skateboards, so you don't really see anything around the board. Now with belt-driven motors, you have a belt with the motors exposed on the outside. Now this obviously affects the noise, so belt-driven motors to hub motors, you're going to have a little bit of noise. It's not something that's unbearable, but it's definitely important to mention that it's there. It's not something that's annoying. Generally, I ride my board between 4 to 6 miles every single day. I use it to get to and from work, and it's not something that gets on my nerves, but it's definitely something that will turn some heads if you're going through a very quiet street. It's just something to note. Last but not least is going to be the price. When this video was filmed, the Urban Kick from Slick Revolution is priced at £779.99. Of course, depending on what optional extras you add to it, the deck choices that you have to choose from, that might vary the price. But currently when we filmed this video, that's what it was priced at. And of course, the link to pick it up will be down below, or if you're looking for more information on this board or the other boards that Slick Revolution manufacture, all of that will be down below in the video description. Now, in regards to the advanced remote control, this new advanced remote offers a scroll instead of a trigger, which I feel is a much better way to be able to accelerate and brake on a board. You have a lot more control over the acceleration, the speed, and the braking. It's a lot more refined in how selective you can be with how quickly you accelerate and how harshly or softly you brake. Aside from this, it also gives us a lot of extra features. We're able to see exactly how fast the board is moving. You're able to set what type of wheel you have on your board so you can get an accurate speed reading. And in addition to this, you're able to also select from 3 different braking options how aggressive or how smooth you want your braking, and also 3 speed options. You can either go for a beginner mode, an intermediate mode, or an advanced mode. All of this being able to be controlled from the remote is a massive, massive improvement. It's also great that the remote features a trigger, which is a dead man switch. So in other words, if that trigger is released, whether you scroll forward to try to get the board to accelerate, it won't unless you're squeezing the trigger, which is great because should an accident occur where you come off of the board and you let go off of the remote, the board isn't going to keep going, it'll come to a stop. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. If you want more information on this board, the link will be down below in the video description, where you'll be able to get much more detail and also information on all of the other boards that Slick Revolution manufacture. If you want us to shoot a more in-depth video sharing our personal experiences with this board, please let us know in the comment section down below. But this is a brand new channel where we're going to be filming videos just like this around similar products. So please let us know what you want to see next. Please make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with anyone that might benefit from watching it. A big thank you to Slick Revolution for making this video possible. Please make sure to thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Hey guys, Chris from, I was going to say Hockey Tutorial.
You was right, yeah.
Alright, let's try that again.